as my maestro used to say when I was a small child.
Now we're going to have a great lesson
about John Coltrane's
Hot Licks, the world leader in video and audio music instruction, now helps you be the best you can be with lessons by some of the biggest stars in music today. No matter what instrument you play, regardless of your level, you simply can't help but improve with these incredible jam-packed tapes. You'll find that Hot Licks videos are of the highest visual and audio quality and feature helpful items such as split screen, extreme close-ups. Don't be fooled by our imitators. Hot Licks is the original, and we are dedicated to always bringing you the best in tape musical instruction. Let the best make you better on the tapes that really teach. Hot Licks.
This tape musical instruction is not a typical guitar lesson. Enjoy that chord. It's in reasonably good tune. And it's not a rig rundown. Here we are at the Fender booth speaking with the visionary who designed the Eric Johnson signature pick.
Eric requested a slight presence boost around 7.5K, so the celluloid material within is reinforced by titanium alloys, making the pick 30 times stronger than anything else on the market.
Eric actually finds that the color green really impacts the tone for the tape covering the tremolo arm spring cavity. From there, the guitar gets plugged into the rest of his rig using a Neutrik Megami cable. Purity of tone is so greatly important indeed that that's why the switch is consistently set to almost always better on the Klon Overdrive. Kindly remember, the ridiculous hype that offends so many is not of my making. From there, it's mic'd up with a hammer from the hardware store. Then, the signal goes into a microphone preamp that I built, named after a dog, Lola. Last, if the signal really needs the maximum kick in the bottom, I run it through an 1176 Rev A Blue Stripe compressor. I build 1176s. Would you prefer a Rev A, a Rev D, or a Rev F? Let me know in the comments section, but this is not a lesson on soldering. It's a music lesson! Within the first 12 bars, there are 4, arguably 5, essential aspects of improvisation to study. 3 of these concepts are applicable to any kind of music that you will ever play or ever want to play. The first concept is playing the blues and playing the blues scale. The second concept is playing the common tones. The third concept is playing through or over changes. And the fourth concept, more central to jazz unto jazz, is jazz lives above the 7, certainly in the modern era. Arguably the fifth would be adding arpeggios into the mix and getting away from everything simply sounding like a scale. These are not optional concepts. These are pivotal and essential concepts to master if you're going to express yourself freely. The blues scale is simply a minor pentatonic scale with one added chromatic passing note. Coltrane loved pentatonic scales in particular. To get to it, you can take your minor pentatonic box that you've probably already worn out on the guitar, and you add one extra note. This is not the proper theory behind it or the proper scale degree names, but if you just add it between the 3rd and the 4th notes of your pentatonic box shape, you're playing the blues scale now. Just like the minor pentatonic scale can be moved back 3 frets for the relative major sound with the same shape, so it is with the blues scale. The pentatonic scale, the minor pentatonic scale in particular, can be played over all 3 chords of a 12-bar blues with absolutely no problems or no wrong notes. So it is with the blues scale. You do want to give some care and consideration to the chromatic passing note, but you can get through a blues with the minor pentatonic and the blues scale, no problem. In and of itself, this is not going to turn you into a bebop guitar player. The actual bebop tradition is more so you're playing over every chord. The minor pentatonic works so effectively over a blues because it's all common tones to all three chords. For example, if you take the E flat minor pentatonic, any one of those notes could be a common tone through all three chords of a basic 12-bar cycle. For example, if I take this B flat note up top over the E flat chord, that note functions as the fifth of the chord. Over the A flat chord, it functions as the ninth. Later, when it goes to the B flat, it'd be the root. If I went to C7 somewhere in there, it would be the dominant seventh. If I went to an F sharp minor 7, it would function as the 11th, and then to a B flat with that as the root again. You can and you absolutely should experiment with all of the notes of the minor pentatonic scale to see how they function as common notes over the three chords of a blues. Just to give one more example, if I took E flat minor pentatonic and I extracted the G flat note in it, I'm going to take that and play it over the E flat chord. That's the Jimi Hendrix chord, that's the Mingus chord. It's a sharp 9, perfectly appropriate. On the A flat 7 chord, it'll just be a good old-fashioned dominant 7th, perfectly appropriate. When it goes to B flat 7, it will function as an alteration. It's going to be a sharp 5. Now, if you were to even add in the secondary dominants, if I put in C7, it's functioning as a flat 5 on that chord. And if I needed to go to an F chord of some kind as a dominant leading back to B flat 7, I would go for F7 flat 9. Keeping this note is the G flat will be the flat 9. So it definitely works. Now you might be wondering about the major pentatonic scale. Can you use that over a blues? We said earlier that if you move your hand back 3 frets, you go from the minor pentatonic scale starting from a very simple box shape. You have now a major pentatonic scale. Couldn't I use E flat major pentatonic scale over a blues in E flat? And the answer is you can, but as far as the common notes, you will have mostly common notes to a major pentatonic, but not 100% of common notes. The note you have to take into account is the major third. In E flat major pentatonic, this guy here. That sounds great over the E flat 7 chord, but when the chord changes to A flat 7, if I don't change that note, listen to this. That's a record from the 1970s. It's a lot of major 7s. That's not a blues. You can play the major 7 certainly in a blues in other applications, but at this beginning stage of it, we're not concerned with giving applications of using the major 7 on blues or chromatic passing notes and these other things that would be later on in our discovery. We're just looking for common notes. If I do this and the band is here and I do this, you're going to get that, and it's not going to work. So we don't have a common note anymore out of this note in the major pentatonic scale. Compared to the minor pentatonic scale, where everything is common notes, the major pentatonic scale, you would need to exercise a little bit more discretion. The other notes do work great in it. You could extract, for example, the second scale degree for the major, and that's going to be good through all three. But as far as starting to work with the basic materials, begin with the minor pentatonics. Pentatonic scales are simply budget versions of more complete scales. To give this some context, if you go back to your minor pentatonic box shape, there's only 5 notes there. If you add in 2 extra notes, you add in the 9 and you add in the 6 or the 13, you now are playing E flat Dorian. Carlos loves Dorian. If you're playing Dorian, and that comes from the minor pentatonic scale, this begs the question, what happens if I go Dorian? So blues in E flat, and I'm going to look at where are the common notes in E flat Dorian. Well, let's isolate. That note is in E flat Dorian, but not in the minor pentatonic. That note is in E flat Dorian, but not the minor pentatonic. If I take this note, over the E flat chord it becomes a 9. Over the A flat chord it becomes a 13. And over the B flat chord it becomes a good old-fashioned 5. If I take this note up top, over the E flat chord it becomes the 13. Over the A flat chord it's a major 3rd. And over the B flat chord it's a 9. So the rest of the notes we already covered in the minor pentatonic. So we have a lot of common notes to explore. But if you only stick to common notes, that's not playing over changes. The sound of playing the changes is the sound of moving to non-common tones when the chords change. We'll be simplifying this, accessing these sounds through pentatonics. As far as the jazz police and the theory police go, yes, I'm well aware that not all of these notes are truly non-common notes once we get deeper into theory and various scales and modes and how this all fits together. But for right now, let's just say over the E flat 7 chord, for example, we've been playing E flat minor pentatonic. So E flat 7 and you play that collection of notes. The chord changes to A flat 7 and you want to sound more like you're playing the changes. So let's say that we play A flat major pentatonic scale over the A flat 7 chord. Now let's look at A flat major pentatonic and see what is different about that from E flat minor pentatonic. Well, the A flat note is common. The B flat note is common. The C natural note is nowhere to be found in E flat minor pentatonic. So C natural is a new note. E flat is common, certainly. Next note in A flat major pentatonic would be F natural. That is also not found in E flat minor pentatonic. So we have A flat major pentatonic, and we've isolated this note and this note as non-common tones. In the E flat minor, we had those 2 notes. It doesn't sound like much yet, but if we were to play that through a chord change, now when it comes to the B flat 7 chord, why don't you play a B flat 7 arpeggio and add in 1 extra note, and that's going to be a whole step above the root. So a whole step above B flat will be the note C. This is a dominant 7th arpeggio with a 9th. These can be called dominant 7th pentatonics. So let's look at that and see what is not common. So we've already isolated that this note and this note change to those two notes over the E flat to A flat change. What about for B flat 7? So that dominant 7th pentatonic well, we know B flat is common to the E flat minor pentatonic. C natural is not, but it was in the A flat major pentatonic. D natural was in neither of them. So this is truly the D natural, a new note, new sonic information. The F natural was not in E flat minor pentatonic, but it was present in A flat major pentatonic. Okay, so we've got a hierarchy here of common versus uncommon. So the one that really sticks out so far is this D natural. That's brand new information. Okay, so A flat, again, is going to be common to A flat, and it's common to E flat minor pentatonic. So really the winner here, as far as the totally new note, is the D natural. Do we have any succession of non-common notes in a straight line? Yes, we do. The D flat that was in E flat minor pentatonic, the C natural that was in A flat major pentatonic, and the D natural that is in the dominant 7th, B flat 7 dominant 7th pentatonic. So what if we just go through a blues like this? Jazz in the modern era, certainly from bebop on, lives above the 7. You simply can't expect to play through a blues and have any satisfactory results, if you're going for a jazz blues, just playing dominant 7th arpeggios. It's just not going to sound like the language. Now you could get away with that in a lot of other kinds of music and use that as a primary approach. You could get away just playing like a slow blues, like a Chicago blues, or like even, other regions of blues guitar playing, whether it's, the B.B. King school or the Texas blues school. You could get away with and that's going to work as a primary approach mixed with some pentatonics, but it certainly won't be speaking the language of jazz. This is where it gets into, well, how do I access these upper tensions and these extensions and these chord alterations? And I'll go back to the key of A for the guitar players. Remembering that I'm really not giving a guitar lesson. I only want to be giving you a music lesson. But if guitar players were so used to this box, right? Ever notice that the A minor pentatonic scale is a chord? It's A minor 11. It's these notes. It's A, C natural, D natural, E natural, G natural. It's the chord A minor 11. So, if the pentatonic scale is a chord, and we just proved that it is, chords can be used in all kinds of ways. You could invert the chord, and you could play that chord over another set of harmonies. So, you've been superimposing without even realizing it, even if you've been sticking to playing straight blues rock kind of guitar over a blues. If you've been playing Mustang Sally, you've been superimposing probably in your guitar solo without thinking you're doing it. So when the chord is, I'll stay in the key of A just right now for guitar players, you're playing A minor pentatonic over the A7 chord. The chord goes to D7, and you're sticking with that A minor pentatonic. You just superimposed A minor 11 over D7. When the chord goes to E7, you hang out on A minor pentatonic. You just superimposed A minor 11 or A minor pentatonic over the E7 chord. Now what's really going on here on a deeper level? Okay, 3 chords to the blues in the key of A. A7, and you play the A minor pentatonic. That gives you the root. That gives you the C natural, the next note. So A to C natural. That's the minor third, but above the octave it functions as the sharp 9 in a dominant chord. You've got the D natural. That's the 4. But above the octave, that's the 11. You've got the E natural. That's a 5th. And you got the G natural, that's a flat 7. Both very vanilla dominant 7th chord tones, 5th and the flat 7. So, over the A7, my A minor pentatonic scale, really, my notes above the 7 are the sharp 9 and the 11. Those two. Now, over the D7, I'm going to play A minor 11, play A minor pentatonic scale. I'm going to get A is the 5th of D7, C is the flat 7, D is the root. 3 very vanilla chord tones. Just couldn't be any more basic chord tones. Then you get the E natural note. That's the 9. That's above the 7. Then you get the G natural, and that is the 4. Above the octave, that's the 11. So on the D7 chord, we have the 9 and the 11, which are upper extensions. Now over the E7 chord, we have A, that is the 4. That's going to be above the octave, the 11. And we are next going to have C natural. That is the sharp 5. It's an alteration. So we've got the 11 and the sharp 5. Then to D natural, that's a plain old flat 7. Then we've got E natural, that's just the root. Very vanilla chord tones. And then we're to G natural, and that is the minor third, but above the octave, we call it the sharp 9. It sounds familiar. So, over the E7, we've got the 11, the sharp 5, and the sharp 9. And that's just one superimposition that you've been doing without even thinking about it. There are many superimpositions to explore. We're not going to go through them in the remainder of this video. But that's what's going on a deeper level. You don't have to be afraid of superimposition or accessing the upper extensions. When it comes to the playing of actual jazz lines and the arpeggios, which we'd mentioned as the 5th concept, we're going to not go into any great detail about that. We're going to leave it at this very surface level, just intellectual awareness right now. Each scale and each mode has a certain set of harmonies embedded within. In the basic C major scale, you have a basic chord scale. And you can use those as pathways to superimpose all kinds of sounds and to access upper tensions and extensions on various chords. So you can use it as material for generating solos. And becoming familiar with a wide variety of those sounds and what they do is well worth the time if you're interested in taking this to the next level. It's also well worth the time to kind of put guitar players on hold, and for melodic lines, for linear stuff, listen to horn players. For harmonic ideas and learning more about chords, listen to piano players. When it gets into any specific superimpositions in the Coltrane solo, now that I'll show you, I'll just mention it to you as it's happening and say, okay, this is why it's working and how it's happening. But on its just very basic level, just taking away from this that you sort of have in the back of your mind what's going on, that is a pathway to accessing the upper tensions and the extensions. Past that, when you're just playing pentatonic scales and you're getting frustrated and going, this doesn't sound like I'm not playing jazz lines. Well, jazz lines tend to be connected through scale tones with passing chromatic tones on weaker beats. And we didn't even open the door of chromatic approach tones in this, although that would be another element to getting into this on a deeper level. It starts out in the key of E flat on the F natural note. That's the 9. It's above the octave. He's going to use this note as a common tone approach. He's going to keep coming back to that note and moving through that note. So it starts out. Then the chord's going to go to A flat 7. Notice he's going through that, what we'll call the common tone. So he's getting the 9 on the E flat and the 13 on the A flat. And then the chord's going to go back to E flat 7, and he's going to play a blues lick. But this blues lick even is a little bit deceptive. Check it out. There is the 9 in the blues lick. He's going through what we can call that common tone. And returning to it at the end of that phrase. So it's like everything is balancing so far on that note. And then the chord's going to go to B flat 7, and he's going to play, well, what's that? That's E flat minor pentatonic. That's what's giving him the sharp 5 over the B flat, the 11 into the root, ending on the dominant 7. But he's starting out with 2 upper tensions. Well, an alteration and then an 11. And then he's going to kick it into high gear, and he goes into his double time section, and he goes into an A flat minor 7 arpeggio ascending. So he's going up the A flat minor and landing here. What is that? Relative to A flat minor, it's the 11. I should say just relative to A flat, to an A flat bass note. Then he's going back. That sounds like it could just be pulled from A flat minor. You almost expect to just hear the harmony when I play that without a backing. But he's superimposing that sound over the B flat 7 chord. So that's doing something to the B flat 7. It's giving him, relative to B flat now, the flat 7, the flat 9, the 11, the sharp 5, into the sharp 9. And then back through the flat 9, root, flat 7. So if it works there, it must work other places. If you were just playing a blues in A and you went to the 5 chord, which would be E, maybe you could play the minor 7 arpeggio a whole step under. So over the E7 chord, you could go, and that would be giving you access to the same tones. So, there's stuff you can definitely extract here as far as approaches go, and they're good approaches. So then, it's going to go from there back through just B flat mixolydian. So, that note there no longer belongs to A flat Dorian. It's just B flat mixolydian. There's different ways to look at this. You could say that that comes from A flat melodic minor, but we haven't gone through any of that in this video. Just say it's B flat mixolydian. So he's going up A flat minor 7, A flat Dorian, back through B flat mixolydian, and then it goes to the last two measures of the blues, and he superimposes a 2-5. So he just plays this line where he's going F minor 7 arpeggio backwards, starting on the flat 7 of F minor 7. So relative to like E flat, that would be the root, then into the 13, then into the 11, ending on the 9, and then to what would be a B flat 7 sounding line. Just those three notes. That's actually the major 7 of E flat. And meanwhile, the band's going through the turnaround, but he ends the line with a blues lick, but it goes through the major 7. So 1, major 7, 6 or 13, and then just connecting chromatic notes. That's 2, sharp 9, major 3rd. And it's just chromatics. But the approach is the most important thing. Now, if somebody else is really holding down the dominant 7th chord, that might not work in your particular context. I mean, you got more freedom when you're just dealing with a bass player and a drummer, certainly. So always play to the context. So now I can show you the fretboard mechanics up close. Start right here. That whole first chunk of the solo you can do comfortably between the 4th fret, reaching up to the 8th fret, and I guess once you got to go back through the 3rd fret. But it's all right here in this segment of the neck. And I'm sliding in as much as possible, trying to eliminate a whole bunch of pick strokes. The guitar will never be the saxophone, but you're trying to get more of a horn-like articulation. And that's courtesy of slides and hammer-ons and pull-offs. And I'm using my index finger kind of like almost as a guide that's moving up. And then back. And you can find the particular finger patterns that you want to use, but it's all right there. From there, it's just into the double time section. You can do it this way. I'm stretched out between the 11th fret and the 7th fret and raking down the strings in the right hand. And if you need to strengthen your pinky, watch my pinky video. and then he's going back. I shouldn't say he is, because I'm playing it on guitar. You can just go back through this kind of a B flat shape on the guitar, and then just play the F minor arpeggio here. Right here, just keep it localized between the 5th frets and the 8th frets. Play it really slowly. So that would be one approach. I mean, and in my right hand articulation, which you can, that's why I gave you some
extreme close-ups.
You can feel free to slow this down frame by frame and study my right hand technique. But sometimes when I'm really playing something that's fast, I will do the thing where I'm following a pick stroke by my middle finger in the right hand to give me the equivalent of another pick stroke when it might happen so quickly, like in a horn line, and there's a string skip. Like there, I've got to get from this to this. And guitar players don't do that all the time. But, you know, that's why it's good, you know, to get away from typical guitar lines. You know, sax players will do things that are not normal on guitar. And it helps with everything. It helps with developing an intervallic approach and, you know, technique and all that good stuff. Now, the other place that I have played it is you can do it up here. And then moving back through the 10th fret. And then for that lick, you'd be, and then, the advantage of playing it here is for what comes later. But that's a whole other section of the solo. That's into his second chorus, and he's double timing, and he stays double timing. So the first chorus we've already extracted a great amount of information from, a great amount of growth from, and you've got tons of stuff now that you can go and implement into your own practice. So that's a little bit of Coltrane as a gateway to becoming a deeper musician yourself and a more effective improvising musician. Keep practicing. You've got to have fun with your guitar every single day. You got to work at it, but you've got to have a whole lot of fun with it at the same time. And I'll see you in the next video.